Welcome, everyone, to the community conversation session of our Foundations of Social Isolation training series. We are really excited to be bringing you experts in the field of storytelling to dive into how to use storytelling as a tool for student agency. My name is Frederick. My pronouns are they, them in English and they and a in Spanish. I am Beyond Differences Professional Development Program Manager. Beyond Differences is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to ending social isolation and empowering students to create cultures of belonging. I am delighted to introduce y'all today to Emily Janssen. She is the Director of Learning and Engagement at StoryCorps. As the Director of Learning and Engagement, Emily designs programs and builds partnerships to bring StoryCorps' stories and interview model into classrooms and communities across the country. During her tenure at StoryCorps, she traveled with StoryCorps' mobile recording booth for 18 months, recording and archiving conversations between everyday people from coast to coast. Emily, thank you so much for being here with us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, our goal with this storytelling conversation about building student agency, creating cultures of belonging, is to talk with different practitioners and practitioners and organizations in the field of storytelling to learn more about how we can use storytelling to build student agency, end social isolation, and create cultures of belonging. So, this is really an opportunity for us to learn from you, also spotlight your work and share what you've been doing with our community. So to start with, I would love for you to share a little bit about your work, StoryCorps, and what the storytelling space means for you.
Great. Thanks, Frederick. I'm going to tell a little bit about StoryCorps' story in a moment and what storytelling means there, what I do now in that work. But first, to tell you a little bit about my own story, especially since when you brought this to us, you were talking about agency. Before I came to StoryCorps many years ago at this point, my career, my professional life was in direct service. And I mostly worked as a case manager and an advocate for young people who didn't have stable permanent housing, who stayed at emergency shelter, who were living on the street, who were living in transitional housing. And I loved these young people. They were full of wisdom, creativity. We had so much fun. I got to really know who they were and what they offered to the world. But over and over and over again, I was encountering other people, other adults mostly, who were constantly making assumptions about them, who were kind of assuming what their story was, and who were telling stories on behalf that weren't theirs. And so that is where I was before I came to StoryCorps, and that is what drew me. This sincere belief and desire to provide people with the space to really tell their own stories in their own words, on their own terms. And that's what brought me to StoryCorps. So, for anyone who is not familiar, we are a national nonprofit. We're based in Brooklyn, New York, but our work is national. And we are really committed to the idea that everyone has an important story to tell and everyone's stories matters. Our mission is to help us believe in each other by illuminating the humanity and possibility in us all one story at a time. But what does that mean? What does that mean we actually do? So, at the heart of what we've been doing for 20 years at this point is the story or a conversation. So, this idea is really simple. We started about 20 years ago in Grand Central Terminal in New York, and we built this soundproof recording booth. And since then, we have been bringing people together two at a time to sit down and record conversations about things that matter most to them. We archive those conversations at the Library of Congress, and we find ways to share them so that all of us can listen to them and learn from one another. At this point, that archive that I mentioned has over 700,000 voices. Those are folks who have come to StoryCorps recording booths, or StoryCorps has helped record those conversations. But a really large number of those are also of people who have taken that microphone in their own hands and recorded conversations with people in their lives and contributed them to our archive on their own. So for me, I think I said I've been at StoryCorps for almost a decade. And some of that time, as you heard, I was really in the room with people who are having these conversations and witnessing the power of what happens when two people sit down for that. But most of the time since then, I've been supporting people to use our tools, to use our methods, to use our stories to practice listening and telling their own stories. So I can't help it. We're StoryCorps. And so I the best way to really understand what happens in a StoryCorps conversation is to listen. So I brought something to share so that we can listen to it together. And this one, I love these opportunities to really lift up voices of young people that are in our archive. So we're about to listen to two Brooklyn high school students. This was recorded a number of years ago. I imagine they're in their 20s at this point. But we're going to hear from Akiva and Henry, and they recorded a StoryCorps conversation together after they had really been using StoryCorps in their classroom. They recorded this conversation about their own friendship and their life experience. And when they were recording the interview, they opened up to one another and shared aspects of their lives they hadn't shared with one another before. So I'm just going to pull that up so that we can listen to that together. Maybe.
When we went to the airport, my little brother was crying. I tried to act tough on him, but I gave him a hug. I've never given him a hug like that before. And I started crying too.
Do you miss your mom all the time?
Yeah, you already know this, bro. That's one of the hardest things for me.
I do understand your feeling though, because I was separated from my mom for like 3, 4 years, I think.
It's hard to leave everything you know. When I first started 8th grade, my English was not that good at all. We had to give a presentation, and everybody was making fun of me. But 9th grade, it got better. What are you most proud about?
I'd say the challenges I've passed. Like last Christmas, I was in the shelter and everyone else was getting these big gifts. I didn't get anything that Christmas.
You never told me that you was in a shelter.
Usually when I have like situations, I won't talk to anyone about it. And I felt like sad all the time. But you would smile and like cheer me up.
I might look big and tough, but
Teddy bear
yeah, I'm a
inside.
teddy bear inside.
The fact that your outside shines so bright is like one of your best attributes.
You never give up. That's what I like about you. We always stick together.
Like magnets.
I've heard that story so many times, Frederick. I never get tired of it.
Do
I
you
hear something
cry
new
every
every time,
time?
and I just love them. Such a good model of really like supporting one another and being proud of one another. Yeah,
Ugh,
and listening and talking to one another.
it's so good. So good. I yeah, I was like, do you cry every time you hear it? Because
We do cry a lot at StoryCorps. We cry sad, happy, proud, excited. It's just there's so much, right? Everyone being authentic and it fills you up. And sometimes that comes out of your eyes a little bit.
I love that. That's a great way to explain it. Um, so when we were talking about what this conversation could look like, one of the things that struck me, Emily, about our conversation was the importance that you were placing on being a good listener and asking the right questions. So, can you help our audience understand what those things have to do with telling better stories? So, why does it matter? Why should someone work on being a good listener, asking the right questions? What does that have to do with storytelling?
Yeah, so I love that you ask this question. And sometimes we joke we should rewind 20 years and like rename ourselves instead of StoryCorps, Listening Corps, because um, really listening is the heart of every single thing that we do. It leads to, I'm going to talk about this in a second, it leads to these really compelling stories. We have amazing producers at StoryCorps who pull these stories from our archive. Everything that we just heard 3 minutes, that comes from this longer 40-minute conversation. Um, that's Imagine that. Like most of us don't even take time to have conversations like that. And our producers know how to get to the heart of what happens in that conversation. Um, Dave Isay, our founder, he calls them poems. Like it's this beautiful story. So the stories are there and we're sharing them. You might hear them on National Public Radio. We turn them into animations. Maybe you see them on social media. I'm like plugging ourselves a little bit here. We have a podcast. So you're going to hear the sort of the stories. But I'm often in situations where asking, what is the heart of the skill at StoryCorps? What's the heart of what happens that actually leads to compelling stories? And it all comes back really to two interconnected pieces, which is one, listening. Um, and that sort of, what you and I think everyone who might be listening are probably really great listeners. That's like part of the practice and profession that you have. But um, really listening and surrendering to the story that someone might be telling you, not the story that you think that they have or that you want them to tell or that you're sort of anticipating, but really leaving room for that and providing a space where they feel comfortable and excited to tell that to you. So being a receiver of those stories. Um, and, I won't go through sort of all of the ways of that we show people that we're listening and what that practice looks like. But I think that all of us can sort of pause and disrupt our own practices in terms of that and think about, when I'm having this conversation, am I allowing the conversation, the story to happen? Am I asking something on my own behalf or on the storyteller's behalf? Am I helping that story come along? But the other half of that listening is genuine curiosity and asking great questions. And so that means following your curiosity. That means asking follow-up questions. And sometimes those follow-up questions are to ask about details or to help paint a picture. And sometimes that's asking people to reflect on why a story is important. Like, how did that change them? All of those things that really like paying attention to that curiosity and asking questions help people make their stories richer and tell more so that what you can pull from it actually are those great details, are the great meaning. And that's what leads to what we heard in those 3 minutes, where we feel really connected to the people in that story and we know why it matters to them.
Oh, Emily. So good. Uh, I I love that. We just have a couple minutes left, so
Mhm.
I do want to kind of wrap our last couple questions up
Mhm.
together. As we talked about, our mission at Beyond Differences is to empower youth to end social isolation and create cultures of belonging. Um, so specifically with your work in the classroom, how can educators be using storytelling to create cultures of belonging in their classrooms, in their schools, in their communities?
Yeah, I think this is the exciting part and this is the part where I always want to hear actually from everyone else after this. How are you doing that? But um there are a few components that we see happen over and over, that particularly in classrooms but in other spaces. One is just consistently bringing story and first person narrative um into the classroom, into this space, so that one, students, young people can see themselves reflected in the media that you're sharing in your classroom. Um, and that might be, connecting and actually, again, seeing who they are, seeing where they come from in spaces where we don't often get to see that. We're not, sharing media like that. Also, giving students then by sharing story, the opportunity to listen to people who have a different story than them and practice doing that, practice being in that space. So we have at StoryCorps just this vast library of these 3 minute pieces that, that we've been developing for years. And those are great because they're 3 minutes long. It's really easy to sort of bring story consistently into the classroom as a supplement to what you're doing, to kind of to bring that voice into the room. And the second is, as we saw with Henry and Akiva, they were in a classroom that really made time. Um, throughout the year for students to be able to connect with one another and really get to know one another as people and practice that listening together, practice articulating who they are, where they're from, what their values are. And so building that culture in the classroom of honoring one another in that way and really listening and using those skills over and over in a consistent way. And then the third piece really takes it a step further, even outside of the classroom, and putting a microphone in their hands, maybe to connect and share and create media themselves to interview someone outside the classroom. So whether that's someone in their family or their community, so extending that sort of curiosity, extending that listening that they've been practicing and bringing it into the community, and then bringing that back into the classroom to share. Um, yeah, those are I feel like those are some of the ingredients, and again, what I love to hear is there's so many things to do with those ingredients, and so I love to hear back from everyone. What is it actually? What stories are you sharing? How are you using story? How is that working in the classroom? That's all exciting to us to hear.
Absolutely, us too. So definitely, educators, please at us, tell us, tell us what stories you're hearing from your students. Tell us what stories you're using in your classroom. Um, Emily, I know you mentioned y'all have the podcast, you have the archive. They can find y'all on social media. StoryCorps is not difficult to find if you spell it right. CORPS, StoryCorps. Um, but I do want to give you the opportunity to leave us with any closing thoughts. If you want to plug the Great Thanksgiving Listen, we would love for our students to be involved in that. Anything else you want to add before we jump off today? And thank you
You're
again.
doing such a great job for me, Frederick. Yes, exactly. I would say visit our website, StoryCorps, CORPS.org, to explore that vast library of stories, to find what might work for you, for your students in your classroom. Um, and also find out ways to participate yourself and to share with your students to participate. You can go to storycorps.org/education, sort of a portal into even more resources. But yes, every November and December, we encourage everyone to participate in what we call the Great Thanksgiving Listen, because that's a time of year we tend to be around, maybe see people that we don't see other times of the year, and invite you or your classroom to choose someone that you want to honor by listening and record and archive that conversation as part of our collection using our free app and archive platform. So we have tools that are just available. They are free. You can find them on our website. And we really do, one of the most beautiful parts of the Great Thanksgiving Listen is that when we created these tools to really democratize storytelling, to diversify our archive, it means that we now have so many more young voices in there. And that to me is just a dream. It's, we're all building this archive together, one voice at a time, and really telling who we are and what matters and making sure that that's represented. And then you can reach me, Frederick, you can sort of share with everyone how to directly reach me, but an easier to remember email address is learning@storycorps.org. It's easier to remember, so you'll get me and my team. And I genuinely mean it. Please do not be shy. Reach out to us and tell us what you're doing. Share your successes. We love to hear it.
Thank you so much, Emily. We super appreciate your time and your expertise. And I know you had another video to share with us that we didn't get to, but we'll make sure that we include it in all of the resources and things that we add out for people. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. We are so grateful.
Thanks for having me. I'm so grateful to know all of you, and by extension, sort of the virtual extended community here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.